everybody wants to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Alright, dudes, today we're doing something a little bit different. I want to check out how AI does graffiti and see how it stacks up against the average graffiti artist. We are going to try a legend's name as well, just to see how it stacks up to them. And during this process, we are not at all going to be uploading the original artist's artwork to the AI. That is a huge line I'm not going to cross. With how this stuff is progressing, it might honestly end up ruining graffiti in the future. I'm not going to lie. I've already kind of tested some things out, and it's kind of scary. So the very first thing we have to try, obviously, is making a Throwie. So let's go ahead and have it generate this. And there we go. Not a single Throwie. None of these, absolutely none of these are an actual Throwie. Luckily for us, it wasn't able to complete the task. But I'll be honest, these straight letters right here are honestly a lot better than not only Graffiti Generator, but also a lot better than a lot of amateurs. Sure, looking at this first one right here, this technically is a pretty busted extension. This extension doesn't really work out too well, but the actual letter structure itself is still pretty solid. Not to mention the fact that this piece that jets off to the left-hand side, actually not a bad addition, and it can easily be added elsewhere on the piece, which is something that somebody can manually do. On this next one, you have a pretty simplistic R, nothing crazy here, a little thing at the top, which also you do happen to see a lot in graffiti, so once again, nothing too crazy here. Having the I complete the left-hand side of the M, it's not working out too well. It actually kind of looks really bad. But, once again, if a toy was to come here and try to do this, that's something that they can manually change themselves, and they'd end up with better results than what they were able to do by themselves, which is the part that I don't really like too much, because doing this is very similar to Graffiti Generator, and it's not promoting the individual actually learning the necessary lessons that they have to learn to progress. Rather, instead, this is something that they would end up using as a crutch. This is wild, guys. Dudes, if you want to actually learn graffiti and be better than AI is, then hurry up and check out the description down below where we have our brand new book that'll teach you everything you need to know about graffiti. Everything that AI doesn't know. So for those guys who have been doing graffiti for a while and you want to upgrade your style, or if you're new and you want to get out of the toy phase, check out the description down below. We got the book there for you. Now, this is a much better attempt from the actual AI. All the letter structures are there, all the letter structures are well done, and fundamentally correct. Where we see some mistakes is with a tittle at the top of the eye up here, where it more so like drips into the eye's structure, but we also see a little bit of a confusion happen between the drop shadow and the actual 3D itself. In some areas, you definitively have drop shadow. We can see that here in the top right of the M. But in other areas, you definitively have 3D, which we can see at the bottom right of the M, as well as the bottom left of the R. This is actually a similar mistake that a lot of amateur and even experienced graffiti artists happen to make. So the fact that we're seeing an AI, make the same mistake is really no surprise. Now, what happens when we have this AI create a Throwie from a famous graffiti artist, somebody who's well known and well established? We're gonna see how the AI does the name Cope as a Throwie. Does it copy it one for one, or does it try to build off of it? And does it do a better job? I highly doubt it will. Holy crap, it just gave us normal fonts. Like, this isn't pretty much graffiti at all. I'm glad it actually came back this way. I'm glad it came out with nothing but crap, because while sure, yes, the letters are fine, the letters are good, this is not what we're looking for when we say, give me a Throwie. And this is what I'm really happy to see. Whether you like Cope or not, we have to be happy that it didn't come back with something that looked anything like Cope's work. And it certainly didn't come back with a Throwie. But we are seeing an improvement here where the 3D on these letters is actual 3D, and it's not getting confused with drop shadow at this point. Once again, another example where the 3D is actually proper. Very consistent and pretty on point for the most part. This one has to be the closest we get to something resembling graffiti, and it's really gonna be on the C where we see that. We see not only a serif here at the top, but the rest of the letters tend to be just what you would see from your keyboard. Nothing super crazy. And it looks more like typography than anything else. In fact, we see a better attempt at graffiti in the background of some of these images. Now let's try a different graffiti artist and a different graffiti style to see if we get better results from the AI. So here we told the AI, generate a graffiti piece in the style of Dame. We're looking for 3D letters, and be sure it is 3D graffiti. Let's see what it gives us back. Holy crap, what is this? That looks awful. Alright, so I see the D right here, then you have a lowercase two-story A right there, then you have the I, followed by the N. But what's this at the bottom? I didn't ask for any of this. Like, what even is that? Here we have another piece which is a lot more three-dimensional. In fact, they even decided to shade this one this time, and the shading looks pretty cool. But the graffiti is still garbage. The graffiti just isn't there at all. Let's be real. This somehow is supposed to be a D. I don't see it. I don't know where they got that from, but it's garbage. Throw it out. Throw it in the trash. Here is meant to be an A, which they do actually achieve the two-story A, and in an interesting way, weirdly enough. Somehow, this is meant to be the I, but it's also garbage. But the M is pretty spot on. I mean, it's not 100% fundamentally correct, but for being in perspective, I'm gonna cut it some slack there, and they do have a definitive M. So that's an improvement, especially considering the D and the I. And to be fair, it is a much better attempt at perspective and 3D graffiti than most 3D graffiti artists. But unlike the previous example, where amateurs would have easily been able to fill in the gaps in the areas where the AI wasn't able to quite succeed, here, the graffiti artist isn't really gonna be able to do that. If a graffiti artist is coming here in order to do 3D graffiti, then they themselves don't understand form and space enough or value in order to be able to do the 3D graffiti on their own, which is why they're here in the first place. And as a result of that, when AI fails, they're not gonna have the skill or knowledge to be able to fill in those gaps. So this is actually rather nice to see. What is that? What is that, dude? Alright, this is garbage. So, now this is probably the best attempt that we've seen. This time we actually have definitive letter structures. We have an A, we have an I, we have an M. However, this time, not all the 3D is actually correct. Another one of those things that an amateur would have to fill in the gaps, and if they don't understand these things to begin with, they're not gonna be able to fill in that gap. Now, you know we gotta do it. We gotta try having this AI create an anti-style piece, alright? I expect it's gonna succeed. Anti-style artists, watch out, your days are numbered. Here we go. What is this? Holy crap, it actually did better graffiti than anti-style graffiti. That's kind of wild, I'll be honest. I don't know what that says about anti-style, but we actually have some letters up here, and this looks about as legible as the average anti-style, so I'm not hating on that. And you know what's wild? Looking at this one right here, if we ignore all the bigger shapes and instead we focus on these smaller pieces that they did, that's legitimately better than anti-style, alright? I mean, it actually is. But wait, hold up. Did they put an Among Us character in the piece? That's crazy. The AI is self-aware, man. It understands what it is. It's an imposter. That's wild, guys. That's wild. But what does all this mean for graffiti? Not too long ago, graffiti generators were really common. It was something that a lot of toys would use in order to kind of fill in the gaps in their own skill and in their own knowledge. As content creation and social media began to blow up, so too did graffiti alphabets. Skilled graffiti artists would make alphabets for fun, but then lesser graffiti artists that were newer, they would look these alphabets up and copy a lot of the letters. That kind of ended up replacing graffiti generators as time went on, and graffiti generators became more and more obsolete. Now, with the power of AI, as it is currently, it's not doing a great job on its own, and I don't really like the idea of feeding it graffiti artists' images in order for it to learn from, so on its own, it's not really able to always successfully complete the task. As we saw with some of the Grim pieces, it did a pretty solid job. Enough of a good job for an amateur to be able to fill in the gaps. With the Cope Throwies, it failed completely, which we were happy to see, and the same thing happened with Dame, where yes, it gave us 3D letters, but oftentimes the letters weren't even there, and it's a little bit too advanced of an art style for an amateur to try to copy to begin with. This is something that we were also really happy to see. But AI is an extremely powerful tool, and a toy would not have the moral stop gaps to prevent them from putting in their favorite artists' images for the AI to learn from, and as a result, they would get better results as well. Not only that, because of how powerful AI is, it won't be long till it's strong enough on its own without reference photos to generate a really good piece of graffiti, or Throwie for that matter, or even 3D graffiti. So right now, new graffiti artists are still better off doing what they've been doing for the past bunch of years and biting graffiti artists that they've enjoyed, graffiti artists that they've admired, whether it's biting their alphabets or biting their pieces. But it won't be long before AI goes ahead and replaces what graffiti generators used to do. It will essentially be the new graffiti generator. At very least, it'll give amateurs something to bite from that isn't a direct one-for-one copy from their favorite graffiti artist, which is problematic in and of itself. If you really want to get better and you really want to become the best graffiti artist that you could possibly be, stay far away from this, because you'll end up using it as a crutch and you're going to end up depending on it. Dudes, that pretty much wraps up today's video though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How do you feel about AI generated graffiti, and where do you think that's going to end up going as the years go on, especially with how rapidly AI progresses? Leave all your thoughts and comments down below, and don't forget we have the books in the description down below for you. So if you want to upgrade your graffiti, be sure to go ahead and check that out in the description. And if you guys want the best how to do graffiti tutorials anywhere online, check out this playlist right up here with what YouTube thinks you'll enjoy right over here. And I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.